Kia ora. Let's see what's needed to find a suitable indicator for a strong acid, strong base titration. So I've chosen methyl orange, and you can see it is red in acid because we're starting off with a strong acid in our flask. And then notice it has a sudden increase and it changes to yellow. Notice that it's about 2 pH units where the color changes from red to yellow. So it's between 1 and 2 pH units, depending on how our eyes see that color change. So the end point where the color changes is the sort of orange in the middle at about this pH. The equivalence point is halfway, so it's at pH of 7. They are at least 2 pH units apart, so not the best, but because it still fits on the steep part of the curve, it could still be used because there's hardly any volume changed to go from the end point to the equivalence point. So I can reset, and I can do the same thing with bromothymol blue. Notice again, there's about 2 pH units for that color change to happen. A strong acid's gentle slope before it goes very steep. And notice in this case that our endpoint and our equivalence point match up, because the equivalence point is halfway on the steep graph. And I can do the same thing with phenolphthalein or phenolphthalein, and you can see it's a gentle slope, and then it suddenly changes from colorless to pink although it does it over there, it's so close to the equivalence point, you could still use it. Now, if we do the reverse and say we go for a strong base first, and we started off with methyl orange, so you can see there we starting off with yellow in our flask, and as it then goes to the sudden drop, notice that change happens slightly after the equivalence point, so not perhaps as good a change, but okay, not the ideal one. I can now do it with bromothymol blue, and again you start off with a high pH, and it's a gentle curve or gentle slope before it suddenly drops. And notice that that color change in my beaker or flask happened at the equivalence point of a pH 7, so that was ideal. If I do phenolphthalein, again that high pH, have a look to see when this changes to colorless. Does it change at round about a pH of 7? And we go there, it is so close, it is still feasible to use this. So for a strong acid, strong base, all are okay, but bromothymol blue is actually the best one because the endpoint and equivalence point match up. Kia ora.